All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rick Vanderson from Michigan Works, Barry and Cass and Van Buren. And this is a walkthrough of filing for unemployment claims. One of the hot topics here during this COVID-19 emergency is how do I get connected to benefits? I may be an individual who's been working. I've not had to file for unemployment recently, or it's been a few years, and this could be a whole new system to navigate. So this module here is to try to give you some tips and tricks on how to navigate this process, either for the first time filing or if you've done it before. What are my first steps that are out here? So, like say first, like say piece of information. What's changed with unemployment since COVID 19? Some real tips that you want to look into. So there's two options of filing a claim, either filing online or via the phone system. Highly encourage individuals to go online through michigan.gov/UIA to file their claim for unemployment. There's only a certain number of operators, a certain number of people out there to answer question and files claims. So if you have the capacity, either through a computer, a smartphone, a tablet, to have that online capability, highly encourage folks to do so. What's your average filing time? Usually it's about 20 minutes to an hour, depending on like how many jobs you've had in the last 18 months and how the system is going. Very dependent. So a lot of the questions are yes and no type ones, but it can take 20 minutes an hour depending on how those speed. What do I need to file? Make sure you know your social security number. Your employers for the last 18 months, like where have you worked? For some folks, it might be very easy. You might have just one employer. Other ones, maybe you're seasonal. You've worked for different places. Have a good perspective on what you need. Your address, phone number, date of birth, driver's license number, and then let's say if you're a non-citizen, if you have an alien registration number and your expiration date, those are required there. As far as payment goes, direct deposit is always, like I say, recommended versus the debit card option out there, just because you can get that money a little bit quicker than waiting for a debit card. Um, how do you get paid? So once your application is in, you certified report out every 2 weeks by answering questions, like say whether you're working or not, and whether there are other conditions. There are 14 yes or no questions where it comes for certification. And you could do that either through online, highly recommended through your MyWeb account, or like say through the phone, through Marvin, that 1-800 or 1-866-500-0017 number that's on there. Communication method. Highly encourage folks to use the Go Green, like say, option, the paperless option to get emails from unemployment versus US mail, just because it's faster to get an email than it is to use something like say through the mail. And a couple other changes for folks that are familiar. You do not need to come to Michigan Works to register. That has been waived during the COVID-19 emergency, and you do not have to submit copies of work searcher logs, like say from there. So those are no longer requirements. Another recent add-in is a alphabetic filing system. So if your last name is A through L, you want to make sure that you are filing, like say, your claims on Monday or Wednesday or Friday online. If your last name is M through Z, do those Sunday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And Saturdays for online is kind of that flex day versus calling Friday and Saturday. But again, highly encouraged to do that online method. Best times to do that is between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. Each day. Those off-peak times, just because that's when most individuals, like say, off the system, where people try to file during the day. So the state's really encouraging folks to file, like say, in the evenings and early morning hours. The deadline has been extended due to like say COVID-19. You now have 28 days to file from your last day of work, and then any of those approved claims will be backdated to reflect those last day of work. Like unemployment's been expanded now to 39 total weeks from 20 during this COVID emergency. And the other, like say, piece of information, if you're a 1099 employee right now, do not apply as of yet. Now, the federal government has extended that benefit out for folks who are gig employees, Uber drivers, uh, contractor, 1099, or self-employed employers, but right now the state's still waiting on guidance that happens. So they're encouraging folks, like say, to wait if you're in that situation. And then last, the amount, the maximum amount in the state of Michigan is $362, like say per week, plus an additional $600 per week through the CARES Act, which was one of the main stimulus packages that the president and Congress put together to help with COVID-19 response. So now that you know a little bit more about the basics, like how do I start my claim? So the best way to start your claim, like say, is on michigan.gov/UIA, like say for workers. That's where you want to start that claim, where you'll access a system, like say known as the Michigan Web Account Manager. Transactions are like say are finding information about your claim are usually faster through MyWeb, but there's ways to navigate, like say that we'll get into in just a bit. So once you click on there, it'll proceed to go to MyWeb, and it's going to ask you to sign in with a system called MyLogin. So you might be familiar with MyLogin if you've ever bought a hunting license online, if you've renewed things to the Secretary of State. You might have my login already. Same thing, like say if you've applied for food or cash assistance, like say you may already have this, like say, account. So your first real step is to sign in with that. And then if you're a brand new person, you'll want to fill out the red stars. Again, for this one, the red stars are very, like say, important. You'll need to have an email address, like say, to do that. So if you don't have one, use one of the, like say, the free options such as Gmail or Outlook.com or Hotmail. There's a lot of different options for free email if you do not have one. I do recommend your mobile number just in case, like say, you're having issues getting passwords and PIN set. It gives you a second option. And then I'll also ask for a verification question. And these are questions like to verify that you're human and not a computer robot trying to apply for unemployment. Create an account. It's going to ask for a user ID. Your user ID must be at least 6 characters and have, like, say, letters and numbers and then a couple symbols. So you keep it simple. It can also be your email address if you think that's something that you're more likely to remember. And then your password guidelines. Your password has to be at least 8 characters long and have an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter, and then either a number or a special character. So something like Michigan with a capital M 2020 would be something that you could use. When you get a little green check mark, that means you have a good user ID and a good password. The next thing it's going to ask you to do is to do a security option to recover your password in the future, either by email, mobile phone, or security questions. You can connect most of them or connect with all three if you want. The one I recommend the most is likely email or with that text message. Email seems to be working out a little bit better for clients, like say right now, to get messages back to verify their account. So let's say, oh, I have my login. I've applied for unemployment in the last 18 months and I use my login, like say for this, but I can't remember my password or my user ID. Use those options at the bottom of the login to determine that. It'll send you an email, a mobile phone, text message, or a phone call or a security question to verify your identity. You do have 3 attempts if you're trying to figure out what your password is to enter in the MyLogin system. After that third one, if you're not sure, it'll automatically lock you up for 30 minutes. So that's where I highly recommend, like say before doing it that third time, using that forgot password or forgot your user ID. Determine that. We've got a lot of feedback that people have locked up their accounts and then they're trying to call into that number to get them unlocked. It'll automatically unlock within that 30-minute time frame. So now this portion is to link your MyLogin with your unemployment profile through MyWeb. So this is where it's going to start asking for your personal information, your social security number, your date of birth, and then linking it to that, like say my login portion. The date of birth, I highly recommend using the calendar to it because the calendar will actually allow you to select that date versus if you try to put in 1/1/1999, it's going to give you some more issues. Use that calendar to do so. So then verify before you move on to the next step that your My Login username is selected, your social security number, and that date of birth is all correct. The next step is to verify your driver's license. So have your driver's license out uh, with you. It's going to ask you if you have a Michigan driver's license or state ID. If for some reason you don't have one or can't find where you're licensed and don't know, it'll ask you some multiple choice questions based off your gross wages to try to verify your identity. The last bit, if you don't have those, it'll send you an access code, like say to access, like say your account or give you a personal access code. And that's one of the protections that unemployment put in a few years ago to help with identity theft to make sure that it was verifying, like say verifying identities before proceeding, like say with claims. Authentication type, super important. This is where you enter in, like say your name, email address, and your My Login account, like say information. Um, One thing that's throwing folks, like say, off or last couple of weeks is entering in a home number versus a cell phone, and then doing an authentication out to their um, like say out to their home phone. Well, home phone cannot accept text messages. What I highly recommend, in fact, this is probably the only way I would go right now, is to use the email option to authenticate your account. Because each time that you log in, it'll send you a message to verify that you are you with it. Unless for some reason you're absolutely unable to access your email address, use that email option. Um, so then your next step is going to send you that either that authentication text or that email. The email's usually been pretty quick within 1 or 2 minutes. The text messages have been taking a lot longer with some providers. Again, highly recommend using the email from there. And then once you receive that, it'll give you an authentication code to log on to MyLam. All right, this is another one that's been throwing, like, say, individuals off as they're filing their unemployment. It's like, how do I file a claim if I've already done this before? So, if you've never done this, it'll automatically give you the spot to file, like, say, a claim automatically. It proceeds to that page. But let's say sometime in the last 7 years you filed for unemployment. This is a screen that's going to come up to like say to give you information about your previous claims. That's the default like say information is to give the information on your previous claims. So what you're going to want to do is on the right side of the page where it says view all claims, click on that page right there. And then that'll pop up the alert for you to file, like say, a new claim. Again, make sure, like say, you have that little exclamation point, like say, in the middle, and that'll get your new claim started. Now, if you have, like say, a claim from earlier this winter, let's say if you were working on a golf course and you were receiving unemployment, like say during the winter and want to reopen that, you want to use that claim information, like say from the previous page, like say to do that. All right, let's move on. So filing a new claim. Again, some of this information is repeated, but you'll want to make sure you have your driver's license or state ID with you, your current mailing address, your county, and then, like say, if applicable, alien registration number if you're a non-citizen of, like say, the U.S. If you're doing direct deposit, have your account and routing number, like say, with you before you start that claim. That legend that's on the right side of the page is very valuable. If you see something with a little yellow triangle in the, like say, in the corner, that is required for next steps. So keep an eye out for those triangles in the top left corner because those are required. If you don't enter something in it, it won't let you proceed to the next spot in your claim. All right, confidential identification. It's going to ask you those yes or no questions. Now, this information might already be in the system from a previous claims, but you want to verify that this is correct. Maybe if it's been, you've had a name change, maybe you've been married or changed names over the last time you did a claim. You want to make sure that those things are correct. Same thing, make sure your driver's license number is correct before proceeding, and then clicking on the next step to go on to the next step. Confirming your physical address. It'll actually want to confirm a physical address, like say for you, within their system. So you'll fill out, like say the address lines, whether it's an apartment, make sure you put the city, the state. If there's anywhere like say attention, let's say you have an apartment or another line, make sure that you put it on there. So once you have that information in, click on where it says enter the address to validate that address. So you could proceed from there. Next step, confirm your phone number and demographics. Again, this could be the same number that you use when you're filing a claim. Make sure that those are correct so unemployment knows how to contact you. But then again, anything that has that, like say, little yellow triangle on your date of birth, whether you're a citizen, make sure that you're filling those out. Like say before you go. You're also, like say, allowed to claim dependents, and whether you want state and federal taxes withheld, that'll be dependent on what your particular situation is. Are you single? Are you married? Do you have family and dependents? So be sure to fill those out as you go. And you have the preference to have state taxes, like say withheld. You may have to pay back taxes at the end, but again, consult your tax provider before doing any, like say withholdings or ones, like say from there. Next step, claim information. So your claim date usually begins the week it's filed. Now, in this COVID-19 emergency with systems, running down, or maybe you got paid, like say from a job for a couple of weeks while they were trying to figure out whether it was going to be a 3-week shutdown, a 5-week, whatever that might be. You can backdate that claim, like say up to 28 days from when you filed. So if, like say, that's correct, make sure that you indicate what week you want to. Again, the other piece of this is the school information. Maybe you're attending classes at Lake Michigan College or Southwest Michigan College, but and working part-time. The system will ask whether you're currently attending school. There are, like say right now, a waiver on, like say, all trading waivers going into Michigan Works, like say during the COVID emergency. But you still have to answer those questions, like say on what type of courses you're proceeding and things like that. Next step, employer information. You may or may not know your employer's FEIN or EAN numbers. Unless you're 100% certain what those numbers are, click on I don't know my employer's EAN or FEIN, because again, if you don't 100% accurate, you have the option to click I don't know. That's what I would recommend. And then next will be your questions on your employers. Now, this one's fairly simple because it only has one employer listed, but it may list those wage records for any employers that you've worked for in the last 18 months. And the reason they're doing that is they're trying to determine your base, like say for eligibility. So make sure you answer all the questions, like say on each employer for those last 18 months, and you'll click on where it's highlighted in red to do so. Next step, this is one that throws individuals, like say, off when we were doing a lot of in-person ones, is that occupational code. So that occupational code gives unemployment a little bit better idea of what occupation or what job you were doing prior to your unemployment. Get to your, like say, best, like say, or closest one. So for instance, maybe you have a very technical job description that's not listed. Maybe move into something that's a little, like say, less technical. Like say, if you're, for instance, I'm the vocational training manager here at Michigan Works. That's probably not going to be listed as a SOC code. I will probably end up putting those in as a manager, coming up with the closest determination. But for other occupations, let's say you're a, like say, a truck driver, a waiter, a nurse, say, accountant, those are a little bit more cut and dry, but your occupational codes will not impact your ability to receive unemployment. But it can keep you from proceeding through the application, so make sure you'll do that. So um, enter in your occupation in the search bar there, click on, like say, the number, and then OK to move forward. Separation reason. So the separation reason will indicate why you had left your employer. Is it something that was a temporary shutdown? Were you laid off due to COVID-19? Were your hours reduced? These are common, common reasons during COVID-19 of why you may have separated from your employer. But there's other ones, like say, listed as well. Come up with the one that's most, most representative of your situation. Unemployment's going to verify, like say, regardless, like say, of it. So make sure you try to put the most appropriate reason for that. Circumstances for an employer, like say the UIA is going to ask, like say, a little bit more details on those circumstances. And this is where you can talk a little bit more about why you're leaving. Is it temporary leave for the entire company, for certain individuals? Did you or somebody in your family have COVID-19? Make sure that you add, like say, those circumstances. This is a new field due to COVID-19. All right, your last step. So after you finish all, like say, your employer questions, you want to make sure that you um, click here to answer and finish the employment section, because it's going to review each employer to make sure that you have all the required information. It's then going to ask, what is your last or separating employer, which would be the last employer, like say, or that you work for. Once you see a check mark, a green check mark that says, like say, that is all there, you can hit OK and proceed to the next step of the process. Payment method. Payment method, again, we recommended earlier doing direct deposit, but you can have a debit card sent to you, a debit card where the state will put your payment amount on that debit card every 2 weeks as you certify. That gets sent through through the mail. So it's usually, a few days or a week after you apply. So say for instance, you don't remember or don't know your account information or bank account information from when you first certified, you can change this later to reflect that bank account information, or maybe you change bank account. So this is something that's not set in stone with your application itself. Certify with Marvin. So you may saw in our first slide mentioned that every 2 weeks you need to certify either through Marvin or through the MyWAM system to verify that you are still eligible for unemployment. Mostly these are to verify that you are still not working, or if you are, did you have wages, like say that you claimed those weeks. So you do that every 2 weeks, and this portion right here will tell you when that appointment date and time may be. So that's something very important to write down. Another tip, like say, for certification is do it online. You can certify online starting the Sunday of your certification week to get an early startup thing. Even if you have a Marvin date that says Wednesday at 4 o'clock, you can still certify at the very online at the beginning of that week, and I highly recommend doing so. Next step is reviewing and submitting all your information. It's going to going to give you the 8 steps, and once those are all showing identified as blue that you've completed, that's when you'll hit your submission, and then you'll receive your claim number and your confirmation on the next page. Link to some resources, like say, that can be helpful. Number one, michigan.gov/UIA is Michigan's unemployment website for both claimants and employers. So if you or your employer has questions, and that's where you start your claims. MyWham is the online portal to unemployment, both for claimants and, like say, for employers. And again, I highly encourage folks to use MyWham as part, like say, part of their filing and certification process. There is also an unemployment benefits in Michigan guide that steps through kind of the particulars, the things that we didn't cover in this presentation. Like I said, that's a really good resource to read through, just so that you know, like I say, all your rights and responsibilities for receiving unemployment. There's an FAQ question, like say, on the michigan.gov website for those frequently asked questions, like say, if I'm a server, should I include my tips? What are my wages? What about these 1099 employees? What is that going to start? These are all listed on that FAQ page. Resource guide for job seekers, another good one that connects job seekers with information, like say, on food assistance, cash assistance if they're eligible for it, Medicaid, housing resources, things like that. That's a really good guide for not just for unemployment, but how do I, like say, make ends meet with my other bills and things, like say, that are going on. What are some other resources that are out there? And then MI Talent, that is Pure Michigan Talent Connect, is the state's resource hub for job search, resume assistant, connection for training. This is where pre-COVID-19, you would go and upload or create your resume on MI Talent to submit for Michigan Works. Now that's waived during this process, like say right now, but still a good website to get familiar with if you're, like say, job hunting and want to see experience, or if you're looking to say, hey, maybe this is a time where I might start that research on going back to school and, like say, learning a new field, being in manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality, IT. Maybe this is my time. I want to start thinking about my options and building my career. A good website to do that, as well as miworks.org. That's Michigan Works Berry and Cass Van Buren's website, where we have a lot of great resources and updates, like say, as far as unemployment changes. So it's a good resource to have. So again, like say, if you have any questions, please reach out, like say, to our Michigan Works staff. Like say, miworks.org is a really great place, like say, to do that and get more information. We're here to help and give you resources and how to connect with, like say, that next step, be it with unemployment, be it with your job search, like say, be it with connections, like say, in the community. So please reach out to do that. Thanks for listening in. And if you have any other questions, like say, reach out in the comments or contact us at miworks.org. Have a good one.